there any additions or corrections to the agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed, motion carries. Minutes of the previous meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from the April 16th regular meeting.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Looks like we had one minor incident.
Yep, backed into a mailbox. Apparently it was a pretty sturdy mailbox.
Buy a new one.
Guy said he wasn't worried about it.
Oh, yeah,
Looked like he built it in box. Yeah.
probably not. Those things happen.
And the rail's been fixed on the truck.
I don't know if they've looked at it or spent much time on it, but yeah, it's working.
At least nobody got hurt. Okay, doesn't look like we have anybody from the audience here today, so we'll move into reports. Looks like Jared, you're up first.
Morning.
Morning.
Just one update, voltage regulator on unit 6, spoke with them this week. Everything is approved and ready to go there. And it's just a matter of getting a date set to do it right now. So
Great.
working on that, and hopefully we'll have that done soon. And I don't have anything else to add unless you got any questions.
Got rid of some cardboard and paper.
We did.
What's cardboard been doing? Has it been going up and down or been staying pretty steady at
It's
80?
that $80 a ton is the highest it's been for a while, but it's just been staying right around there. It's been 75 for a long time. It went up to 80 this month, and I decided we were getting kind of full, so
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we get rid of some.
Yeah. I could see back up around the $120 mark again.
Anything else for Jared? Thank you, Jared. Grant, good morning.
Morning, gentlemen. Just one update. We have started construction on the Ted Bonding wall. We made the first tie-in yesterday, and crews are laying pipe today. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for
Yeah,
Grant?
just the raising the pressure on the gas line. Looks like there's some work going to be done there.
Yeah, they did cap the one leaking valve at Hemlock. They've replaced several valves at the take point, and we don't have a schedule on replacing the others. But they only leak between the 775 and the 900, but those will be replaced.
The 900 psi that line's supposed to withstand that with no.
That's what the test was for, to see, and everything performed good except for the valves, and they kind of expected those valves. And the valve that they had to cut off was a pigging valve, and it wasn't really configured the best, so we just kind of decided from the hip that we'd take it out. It wouldn't work in the future anyway, so we just took it out and capped it.
Did they start on the adjustable stands that we
They haven't yet.
last meeting? Okay.
Anything else for Grant? Thank you, Grant. Doug, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Just one update. HK Shoals will be here Monday, May 11th to test the Miami 2 substation breakers and relays. And other than that, I don't have any questions or anything else to add unless you have any questions for me.
May 11th.
May 11th.
See you dug some holes over here.
Yeah, toward the front yard again. Put duck banks.
Find everything.
No, I don't believe we found everything, but we found a few things. A few things we were looking for and a few things we weren't looking for.
As long as you didn't find any bodies.
Ain't nobody, no.
Do we need to get somebody to come x-ray? Come x-ray the ground for you?
I don't know how important that is.
Yeah, I think I haven't been over there since they've done the excavation. I'm gonna probably try to find some time to go over there, and then we'll determine if we need to do further
We need to figure out what's under there. Let's just figure out what's under.
Right, right.
Don't wanna waste a bunch of time playing in the mud, playing in the pothole.
Is there any results back from Crockett on their soils test? Have you seen it?
I haven't seen any, Chad.
Okay.
Anything else for Doug? Thank you, Doug. Jim, good morning.
Morning. Not a whole lot to add. We seem to avoid most of the storm damage, but we have spent most of the last 2 days doing emergency locates for KCPL, for Evergy, and the co-op up around Slater and Gillum and 41 highways. We've been probably called in about 50 locates. Some of them 2 in the morning, but that's about it. Unless you got any questions.
The commission asked about the northwest corner
Yeah.
of Junction. Is that future development plans, or is that gonna be required by the new station down there?
They're asking about getting to it by October. I'm not sure how we're gonna find the time or the budget to do that, but yeah, I think that's for future, or not so distant future development. I'm not sure what all is officially going down there yet, but they're asking about getting to that corner.
You have to go under 65 or anything to get there?
There should be already a conduit that they've put in there for us. If not, we have been able to get permits from MoDOT for 4 and 65. We just can't 470.
They specify why October is their deadline?
No. I'm assuming for development, but and I'm not sure it's a hard deadline. It's just kind of a rough ballpark.
I think that probably aligns with when that new tenant is gonna have their stuff done there.
Yeah.
And those fireworks store looked like it had some signage and stuff on it. I think as soon as that gets moved out of the old building, you'll see some activity there. And I think their goal is to have that open by October, somewhere in that time.
Anything else for Jim? Thank you, Jim. Eric, good morning.
Morning. I don't have anything to add to what's in the packet, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I get the spreader trucks, the new spreader trucks out of service.
Yes, we did have Don Stone come pick it up. It was the toner ring, basically that picks up the cam sensor. The cam sensor picks up on it. It was broke, I believe, is what Brian told me. So it is at Myers right now, and they're looking into if we have any warranties and stuff on that. So.
Any other questions for Eric? Thank you, Eric. Travis, good morning.
Morning. I don't really have anything to add other than what's in the packet, but be happy to answer any questions.
Couple weeks, they'll lower that pump.
Yes. Yeah, all they were waiting on was that epoxy coated paint or pipe, and that's what takes longest. But everything else, they're ready to go. So, but yeah, they said it should be within a couple weeks, and they'll get here and get it done. So, but it's operating now and everything. We're not having any issues. So, but get us back to full capacity on that well and everything. So.
Anything else for Travis? Thank you, Travis. Megan, good morning.
Morning. Not going to add to what's in the packet, but I do want to congratulate Electric Production. They've gone 7 years without a reportable injury. That's fantastic. And then also want to congratulate Administrative Services. They've gone 2 years. So everybody's continuing to do a great job in the safety area. Other than that, I'll be happy to answer questions.
It's great to see those numbers grow.
Yep.
Will you have a recommendation for the wage benefits next meeting?
Yes, I debated bringing that up. I will be submitting my recommendations to Jeff today. So I think he'll have time enough to chew on that and get that in for the next meeting. It's my goal. And I was going to apologize then, but I will do it now. I do need to apologize to everybody because that project's late and that's on me.
I can't believe that. All your free time. Yeah. Getting ready to say thank you for putting all that together. It's very well presented. And a lot
Thank
of
you.
information. So.
Thank you.
Anything else for Megan? Thank you, Megan. Tony?
Morning. Morning. I do have an action item there to address starting to address the I&I issues. We've created a sewer billing policy to look at industrial and commercial users that have a direct effluent metering. Under this policy, it's pretty simple. Right now, there are commercial and industrial customers are billed directly what they use in water on sewer. For a user that has an effluent meter, we're going to look at billing. Sewer charges will be calculated based on the greater of what was used for the water or what went to the effluent meter. If the effluent meter is greater than the water, then we'll bill directly off that, what we're treating to that meter. To kind of give you an example, we had a user currently that last year we billed them 29 million gallons of water, but 56 million gallons went through their effluent meter. So we treated that much more rainwater, stormwater. That is equivalent to about $105,000 of revenue that we should bill for. Obviously, with the rain this year, the same large user has used 6.9 million gallons of water, but we've treated through their effluent meter 22 million. So it's one of those things that we need to address, and so we've created this policy to help address that. So if you guys, unless you guys have any questions, I'll make a recommendation to approve the sewer billing policy for industrial users with direct effluent metering effective April 29, 2026.
I do have a couple of maybe questions or comments. So this is going to be, we can look at either one.
Correct.
You can either look, because I know in one case, their water, their incoming water meter, there's deducts off of that, off of the meters, and it's for water that's going out the condensers, that's evaporating and not going to the sewer.
Correct.
So that lowers their incoming water bill. Now their effluent meter, we really don't have control over their effluent meter, do we? I mean, they've got control of that, I believe.
Yeah, it's their meter, and
Yeah.
they do have control over it.
So we have more. So I just, from my experience, I know the effluent meter wasn't always real accurate, or there were times that it might have problems, and whether you got an accurate measure off of that, it just seemed like it was. But I think in that case we won't find those kinds of discrepancies where there's a huge amount, and I get the impression that this is probably specific for one case.
It is, that would be accurate. Yeah, this was found through some pre-treatment audits a couple years ago, and we first thought they were making water, because we were looking at their effluent, comparing that to their water consumption, and we thought there was a meter error, and then that led to discovery of some stormwater drainage being tied to this. And I think our goal is to at least recover our expenses and cover our costs while the business looks at some alternative. I think once they start seeing what that cost is, they're going to want to probably look, because they're going to
Take some action.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much rain you had. It's going to cost them 6 figures plus a year, and we need that revenue because there's costs associated with us receiving that water, and I think this addresses that. I don't know that we've got any other issues, and I know Grant did some checking on the type of meter that they have, and there's some people that do bill off of that. It's billing accuracy. Class meter, but even with that, you can still have issues.
Yeah, and I know at least in that case it's inspected and calibrated on some regular. But I'm just trying to think, and the deduct that they get for the you know, the condenser water, that shouldn't show up on the sewer anyway.
No, it gets removed, yeah.
It shouldn't be water that gets to the treatment plant anyway.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And looking at the history, I went back through and looked, and you could definitely tell in the drier months where there was very little rain, their effluent was almost exact with what their water usage was. So,
Okay.
so I felt pretty good about that.
Do they do that same thing? Do they get a deduct for, well, do they have any,
I don't think there is a boiler out there.
Yeah, there's no deduct on.
and there's no, I don't think there's, the ammonia there is over on the coal warehouse. Do they, I don't know that they have any cooling condensers, do they?
Oh, not that I'm aware of, no.
I guess they may have some
Yeah.
air handling units, but it's probably not a full.
Not,
Yeah,
yeah.
not like, yeah. Okay. All right.
So it's costing utility $100,000 a year to treat this.
Last year.
Last
Yeah.
year.
This year we're almost 60,000.
And I'm sure there's things they can do to mitigate some of these.
So I'm assuming they've been made aware of this and
I think we've been talking to them over the past year or two since this was discovered. You know, the facility was originally built like this. It wasn't like they just went in and made some changes recently and said, hey, we don't want to run this water here, we want to take it there. It's something that's been going on for 50 plus years, and we discovered it, and we're working with them. I don't know that separating it is very easy, the way it's built into the plant, but and we don't want to go in there and say, hey, you got to take this out. And you know, I think this is a starting point to at least make sure we're getting our costs captured. You know, we're not, because we're losing money.
Right.
But every time it rains, it costs us money, and we want to make sure we're made whole there, and then we'll continue to, you know, work with them to find a longer term solution, which would be to getting that water out of there.
Well, what happens whenever they do separate it, and then, you know, is that gonna overwhelm stormwater? Is there a place to go with that?
And
Once
those
they
are questions
separate it?
we'll need to answer, Chuck.
Yeah.
I really don't know
Okay,
enough about the location to say it's gonna move water here or there.
Yeah.
Or I think those are some questions that'll have to be answered before it's disconnected.
okay.
So,
If they've known about it for a year, I'm sure that their wheels are probably already turning.
It should be, yeah, it should be.
Things to do to offset that.
yeah, and like most items, you know, those companies make those decisions based on costs. And when they start seeing these costs, they're probably gonna wanna try to find a solution. Yeah. And I think they understand, you know, our concerns, you know, because, you know, we're pumping that water 2 or 3 times, you know, it goes to the FEQ, we might be pumping it 3 times, so it's probably a cost for rainwater is probably even higher than it would be because you're pumping it so many more times, and, but I think it's a good starting point.
The only other thing that could happen is when you take that clean water off their waste treatment, then their waste treatment, you know, they may have some limits on their waste treatment and the strength of their wastewater they may have some issues there that causes them.
Yeah, I don't see that with this particular customer. They've got pretty good numbers during dry weather, and you know, I don't know when the last time they paid a surcharge was. I mean, they're staying well below the extra strength thresholds. I think that's an accurate statement, isn't it, Eric?
Yep, that's accurate.
Yep.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's going to be a tough one, but we got to start. I mean, just like Eric getting 21 million gallons a day here a couple weeks ago. I mean, that's we've got to start changing the direction of those numbers. We've got to start trying to bring them down the best we can. This is what I would call some low-hanging fruit to a certain degree. You know, we've identified it. Now we're just working towards a solution to hopefully mitigate that long term.
When did the official prohibition of new stormwater connections, when did that go into effect?
That's been codified for some time. It's in our
90s maybe?
well, and it's in our pretreatment enforcement policy. You know, you can't allow those. I'm not sure when that actual city ordinance, but there's several portions of ordinances over there that cover that. My guess is this was done in the 70s, and you could probably grandfather it in. probably predates some of this stuff, so that's why we wanna work with them and try to gradually get to compliance, and I think there's some financial incentives to do that for both parties, so.
Yeah, it was common practice in the 70s.
Yeah, and not just with those, with homes and other things as well, footing drains, foundation drains, I just think it was, that was the default
Yeah.
for stormwater at that time. And,
Yeah.
you know, we're gonna be dealing with trying to fix that for a long time, and we certainly think this is a step in the right direction.
Make a motion to approve the new sewer billing policy for industrial users with direct effluent metering effective April 29th, 2026.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the sewer billing policy for industrial users with direct effluent metering effective April 29th, 2026. Any additional questions?
I do have, so how many industrial users have direct effluent metering?
2.
Probably.
Yes.
Probably 2, okay.
Yeah.
2.
We've got 3 that require permits, and
Yeah.
2 of those have
Have meters.
effluent meters.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Motion has been made and seconded. So we haven't voted yet. All in favor, please say aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carries.
Totally excited.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Also in the packet, I have our second quarter kind of financial summaries. We're halfway through the fiscal year. So we should be right at the 50% mark, and you'll see there under revenues, we're at 47% as utility and 48% on expenses. Cash reserves, our overall cash did go up $709,000 from the first quarter, specifically in water and internet, IT and broadband, and gas. We're down 300 in electric and 65,000 in sewer, cash-wise from the first quarter. Restricted accounts, those are the balances as of halfway through the year, and our loan balances are going down. No more water on there. So, also included is the cash and investment summary that we send to the city at the 6-month mark, and then at the year-end mark. Just included a copy of that for you guys as well. And then I know it was mentioned during the audit that we had a correction on submitting the audit to the clearinghouse audit by June 1st. So we just received a letter from USDA saying that everything is good there. So I just included a copy of the letter as well. And then the budget report is back there. There's really nothing that stood out other than you'll see under other expenses for every department with a lot of our professional services, burns, tow. A lot of those have already been performed. So that's why we're a little high, over the 50% mark in those sections. Would be happy to answer any questions or concerns you don't have.
Put 10,000 a quarter into the economic development fund.
With 5,000.
5,000 a quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah, remind me, what was the move from water capital to operating? 175,000.
What are you asking with?
What was that? I don't remember what that was for. Moving the 175,000 from water from capital to or from reserves to operating.
We ran out of money in operating, so it was just to cover disbursements. Yeah, correct. And I just did another transfer last week to cover the last disbursements for that. So
I think that drives home
what we're
Why
asking
we're
council to
asking-
do. That's
Right,
kind of
no,
what I'm
great.
hitting at there.
Great point,
Yeah.
but no, yeah, Tony's doing
We're
a
using
good job.
reserves to operate. That's
And
how that
we're-
works.
And we're putting some stuff off as well. I think there's some capital stuff that, we're just not gonna do if we can do without them. Reserves aren't to operate, how your day-to-day operate.
Correct. Also, I've been working with MPUA on lease financing for the IT and admin building. RFPs for that will go out May 1st. MPUA will send those out, and they're due back to MPUA on May 15th. Right now, we'll get those, kind of review those. We'll probably have those to you guys, kind of have a discussion on that maybe on the May 27th meeting is a timeline right now. And then after we review that at that meeting, we'll probably come back to June 10th meeting for approval. And then the plan is to close on into July 31st, right? So, but those will go out May 1st, so.
And that all coincides with groundbreaking. I think everyone's got everything pretty much running parallel and everything looks like it's timing out pretty good.
It's still no clarification on the IT funding to be used for the customer care.
And I'm still waiting to hear back, yeah.
I'm hoping no news is good news, Jeff.
Okay.
The, our FR with USDA, they're pretty overwhelmed. I mean, I think we have, our guy covers pretty much all the Midwest, so I gotta kind of stay on. He gets the answers, so.
So it makes more work for you, and the answer's probably no.
I think he's just passing the word up, so
Okay.
I hope to hear something soon.
Anything else for Tony? Thank you, Tony. Jeff, good morning.
Morning, gentlemen. Do have a couple action items this morning. The first is the maintenance agreement between MMU and the Missouri Joint Municipal Electric Utility Commission. I've included a copy of that in the packet. That will be for our electric production staff to take care of phase 1 of the Marshall Energy Center. When phase 2 is complete, we'll have another MOU to address that phase as well. If you look here on this, there's close to 2,000 hours worth of items identified, 2,000 hours. So Jared and I have talked, phase 2 gets done, it's just something he's gonna have to monitor. We may need to look at adding staff. I think as much muck is we're gonna do this initially. They've got other projects. They've got Hannibal, Fulton, there's another mid-Missouri. There could be the potential that they'll utilize our staff for those other areas as well. So the future looks bright in the electric production department. As you gentlemen know, we decommissioned the plant and took it down. The number of people we could employ in that department shrank, and I think this is going to keep some jobs local and potentially even add a few jobs for us. But they have a similar agreement in Macon. I spoke with Ben over there, and he said it works fine. So this isn't something new. It's basically kind of a copy and paste of the agreement they've had with Macon. I believe they've had that one probably 10 or 15 years. So it works. We reviewed it. We're good with it. And I'd like to go ahead and move forward. If you notice, I think the starting date is December 1st, which is when when we're supposed to have the unit rating included in the market. So that's kind of our target date for market credit, and that's when this will start.
Just a couple things. So I see there 19.5 megawatts. All along, I kept hearing numbers like 22
Well, they're
to
22 and a
25.
half, and so that's kind of a nominal rating, Chuck, because you've got, gas turbine, you know enough about engines, cold, dense air, you can make more horsepower. Well, these are just the same. So they've got probably a 24, 25 megawatt winter rating and a 17 megawatt summer rating. So I think those are the nominal ratings, and Jared, I think, could maybe expand on that a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, Unit 6 is a lot the same way. wintertime would be a lot higher.
Okay.
And that's
When we
where
did the groundbreaking, it was actually listed as 25 megawatts.
Yeah.
Okay.
During the winter, which is really when you need the capacity. I mean, that's kind of been the change in the industries over the last 10 years. You know, it always used to be about summer. Well, now it's winter. You know, that's when we'll get this capacity. So,
Okay.
and that's why Jared receives, well, for a couple different reasons. Summer capacity credits on our units, and then winter capacity credits. So you've got really 2 seasons now, and that kind of coincides with performance of gas turbines.
Okay. And just one, on page 3, the bottom paragraph, property coverage. In the middle, it's insured property will include all property, including vehicles and mobile equipment owned by MJMEUC and used by MMU. Are they gonna provide any vehicles for us to use?
The potential's there. I don't see that as something being normal, but if it would arise, I think it's covered. We'll be using some of their equipment probably. Jared, you may be able to expand on that a little bit.
I'm kind of thinking a lot of that may have to do more like with forklift. They'll have a forklift over there and some stuff like that.
And that's stuff that they'll provide?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, there's gonna be spare parts. They're supplying all
Yeah.
the inventory. We're just have to coordinate, you know, inventory with them when things are done and needed. Yeah, they're checking most of the boxes. We're just there for support, and that's what this agreement will.
And then I think you answered my last question. So the estimate of hours per year, is that's something you and you all
We
kind
kind
of,
of work with them
and then did you look at like similar, you did look at like Macon?
I did, and we'll also track cost, Chuck. We're not just gonna solely base it on the estimates. We will track ours as well to make sure at the end of the year, everything aligns. And I think once we get through a year or two, it'll be a little bit easier to kind of,
Okay.
I think it just works better. It's worked well for Macon. They just pay them quarterly payments or whatever, and you know, you're not trying to, you can balance everything at the end of the year and try to have to kind of an as you go type thing. It probably helps Tony budget a little bit too.
I thought that number seemed kind of low, really, to, you know, keep 2 of those going, but, yeah.
Well,
Feel
then
good with it.
you're gonna add a substation too,
Yeah.
so we're still kind of working, there might be 2 substations, we're working through some relaying issues on the, interconnect for phase 1. Because if we put those larger transformers over there, it's gonna require a larger footprint, which removes the grounding transformer, which affects relaying, which there were some things that probably should have been looked at on the front end with that initial firm that they're kind of having to go back and further refine, but there's a chance those units may end up over in the project site too, with a direct step up to 161. Now, that being said, we still need to make the initial connection to the old transformers to get accreditation by December 1st, so it may have redundant feeds when it's all said and done, but if we leave those existing transformers there, then we don't have to reconfigure the grounding transformers and some different things on the relaying side. They've got a relay protection consultant, and we've had one Teams meeting with him. It's I think not replacing those transformers is probably the thing to do. And when I say that, as far as MMU, because I don't want any negative impacts from this project on our distribution system or our generators or any of our protective equipment. So I think to get that is going to require. So there'll be some, you know, we already do substation maintenance monthly, so there'll be those things to be added in there. That'll be kind of new for them because I don't think Macon does the substation, has the substation where they're at. So we'll add that in too. Anything that needs taken care of at site, we plan to take care of that.
They helping us navigate kind of some of the requirements for NERC compliance.
Yes, yeah, we're working on that right now. Talked to John last week at the OPEB meeting, and some of the staff down there, Steve, and then Drew, and that's very active right now. We're working through that, and then we've got an attorney representing us that they're reimbursed us for because this was all caused by them. So we've engaged an attorney, and she's very good with NERC stuff, and so it's kind of a dual-sided, we've kind of got our team working through that, and then they've got a team as well.
I'm thinking to designate like a level of compliance that we had to have.
They do, and Heather's thinking that there's still some debate as to whether or not phase one qualifies. I think if they could, because it does go to the distribution system, not directly to the transmission line. I think that if we could get out of phase one, we know phase two is going to require NERC certification, but that's 2 years out. So that gives us a little bit more time to kind of work through this, because it can be complicated. So at best, we'd hope we don't have to, but I think at worst, it's going to be a low impact. It's not going to be a major impact to the transmission grid. And we've got some plans, if it ends up going that route, to address those issues in the short term as well. I think Mudgemuck's willing to do some of the transmission operator. They're going to provide assistance there, and then they've reached out. I think they found a third party that will do the TOP function, or the transmission operator function of that. And of course, again, it's got to be, hopefully, they're going to look at it, and if we close, hopefully at the end, it would be nice to close both ends of that 161. And the reason for that is that will improve reliability for our customers. We have a section of the transmission line about in the middle right now. Well, the end, we drop. So we've got basically 1 to 2 substations without power. You got a dual feed, the middle section goes out, it takes it out, you don't have any loss of power to your customers. So you're gonna have some paperwork and a lot of hoops to jump through. At the end of the day, I think it will improve reliability. And if we run that close, there'll be some revenue. We'll get some tariff revenue on that as well. And a lot of that's gonna determine, once we kind of get that information, what direction we want to head. We still got a lot of boxes to check there too. But yeah, no, it's probably one of the bigger items. We're actually working on to have the NERC agreement. We have to have a generator interconnect agreement between the two entities, and also a transmission interconnect agreement. We're working on a generation interconnect agreement now. So still a lot of agreements come forward.
Okay.
So
Nothing more. I'd make that motion to authorize the general manager to execute the Marshall MJMU EC Operations and Maintenance Memorandum of Understanding for the Marshall Energy Center.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to authorize the general manager to execute the Marshall Mudgemuck Operation and Maintenance Memorandum of Understanding for the Marshall Energy Center. There's no additional questions. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
thank you, gentlemen. Second action item I have is related to that project as well. Engineers are completing the liquid fuel tank design, offloading. Room is at a premium over there. It's, you're trying to put stuff in an area that's already got a lot of stuff. They're really having trouble getting that design off of that west part of the right of way on Grant Avenue there. I think they're 3 or 4 feet out. That's a 60-foot right of way. We originally vacated 25 feet on the east side, leaving a 35-foot right of way to give them room on the project. In hindsight, we probably should have closed this south portion then, but I think our goal was we didn't want to close any more than we needed to. We wanted to try to leave people that are over there, the animal shelter, some other people, as much access as we could. But this is showing a need that we need to go ahead and close that remaining 35 feet of Grant Street, and that is just from the gravel road on Eastwood to the south side of the alley, south of the animal shelter. So again, it's only what we need. We really haven't had a discussion, well, okay, we're gonna vacate that, but are we gonna leave it open for traffic? We haven't had those discussions yet, but I don't know that there's gonna be anything in there that they're gonna have to fence or gate or anything. My guess is it will probably remain open it's gonna benefit them, it's gonna benefit us. We've got access needs over there, so, but this will need to be done so they can go ahead and get some complete their equipment design and kind of get that going.
I guess that was my question. We're not gonna like gate it off where it's completely closed. So if there's not one of the trucks loading, people could access.
Still have access. Yeah, I think that's, yeah, this whole project, I think that's a balance we've tried to maintain is what do we actually need?
Right.
What needs to be fenced, what doesn't, and really trying to minimize the impact to anybody in that area. So, instead of going to the north half, I think we're fine there. I just think this little south piece will give them what they need and allow them to move forward. So.
See that being developed at any time soon.
No, I don't know if anybody else is gonna use that over there. It's,
Yeah.
but this would go to the council for final approval. But that would be my recommendation, would be to move it forward to council.
You said minimal impact, so, make a motion to request the city council approve the closure of Grant Street between Eastwood Street and the alley south of the animal shelter.
Second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded to request the city council approve the closure of Grant Street between Eastwood Street and the alley south of the animal shelter. There's no additional questions. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen. Do want to have a little discussion on water distribution and treatment plant studies. As you gentlemen know, Grant recently had his completed. We did sit down, Tony and I sit down with Travis and Grant. We've kind of reviewed those. You'll see some of the items that staff feels like are needs and not wants. And you can see that total, based on level 4 estimates, $35 million. I think, to really fine tune that and narrow it down further, we need to move to a more accurate estimate. I've reached out to Jeff Barnard with Burns McDonald. He's starting to look to see what it'd look like to move these to a level 2 estimate. Kind of give me an idea of what that would cost would be, timelines, those kind of things. And sometime, with the board of this is, some pretty big infrastructure improvements in the water area. We got to get a plan. So, at some point, if the board wants to have a work session, I'll bring the level 2 estimate information back, and then maybe after that, we can, after we get the level 2 stuff, if the board's fine with getting it on this, once we know what that looks like, then we're gonna need to have a couple of meetings to figure out. I'm hopeful this will drop 30-40%, but we don't know. And we're still waiting on DNR, on the status of the water treatment plant qualifying for grants as well. So there's still some things, but I think getting to that level 2 estimate for these projects is the next good step for us.
I thought we talked about maybe Burns McDonald coming in and kind of reviewing those studies with us. Is that something?
They'd be happy to do that if we can, Chuck. I know I think they did on Travis. Did they come in on yours, Travis? Travis has been done for a little bit.
So, it's been a while.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah, if you like, I can have Grant reach out to
I thought it was
David
something we
and that team.
talked about at one of our previous.
We may have,
meetings.
Chuck.
I can't
Yeah.
even remember for sure.
No, we'd certainly be open to that. That would be something we could do at the next meeting, and then maybe they could talk a little bit about what a level 2 estimate, where that would get us compared
Okay.
to where we're at here.
I mean, I'm certainly more willing to do a work session. That's
Yeah, I don't know. It may be a little bit before you want to have one. I just kind of wanted to keep that out there. That,
Okay.
Really, the next step for me is to get the information back from Jeff. Here's, if you want level 2 estimates on these projects, here's what it's going to look like. We could set up have somebody come to the next meeting, and then they can talk about what that level 2 estimate will get us. We won't request approval for that until after we get all those presentations and that information back in. But those are kind of looking like the next steps moving forward. So lots of work to do in that area. And again, it's there was a lot more in there. You can't fix everything at once. We just kind of staff, I think, made some good choices here on some items that will really make a big impact and benefit us for a long time.
30 to 40% is a pretty big swing, so
Yeah.
you can't really make a formulate a game plan until you got something.
Right, yeah. How do you know, if this comes, it's 35 million, and of course, we're gonna do some things within that. If we do construction management on the flow line, is that gonna knock out another 10, 15%? Once we kind of get those projects narrowed down, it's not just level 4, but it's turnkey at this point. With engineering, none of the in-house stuff done, I think, the water, Grant can tell you, the water main estimates they have in there are a lot higher than what he could do. So, yeah, it's hard to make decisions.
And I read through that water master plan, and that transmission line, it acted like, or what I kind of read was they were maybe making some suggestions that before we just replace it, that we look at, putting monitors in various locations and find out, pressure variations and flows and things like that.
I think that'll be part of their study before they finalize the size and the location.
That'd be the,
That'll, to get to the level 2, I
Yeah,
think
get
they're
to
probably gonna
level
wanna go
2,
ahead and
yeah.
do something. Yeah.
And we're still waiting on DNR for, we did send the recommendations. They wanted some more information. We had sent that to them last week, Burns and Mac did. So we're waiting on comments or approval for the last 7 projects.
And that's to get them in the owner supervised program. So, and then Grant will be able to go ahead and move forward with those projects whenever he can work that into the budget schedule. Yeah, just a lot of work there. Appreciate staff, time they've taken, to look at some of that stuff. But yeah, there'll be more to come. We'll try to get somebody here next meeting, Jeff. Moving on a little bit, did have, MOPEB meeting last week. I probably should have attended it virtually, but it's kind of nice to be down there actually, and definitely worth the trip. If I find my section here. Yeah, they did approve the same agreements you gentlemen just approved at that meeting. Continue to discuss large load policy. We're gonna have a service and rates meeting on the 4th. We're just in a different era. We got to figure out the path forward. Everybody wants to be able to provide capacity for their respective communities, but you want to do it in a way, you don't want to go out and spend a lot of money for capacity for transient type businesses. And so we want to make sure we're covering all the bases there, and everybody's got good information when their phone rings. They kind of know how to treat that. So good news, our 6 Quintessent peak dropped 1.1 megawatts. So really the savings there depends on how much, some of that 1.1 megawatt, if we get high prices and we've got our generations online, we've got a hedge against the market, and that really is what kind of varies our capacity on an annual basis, is all weather related. But I'm estimating around $200,000 annual savings by having that lower CP. It could be more, it could be less. I'm probably being a little conservative there. It's probably going to be above 200,000, but I don't like to overestimate and under-deliver. So, but that's some good news there as well. Did approve some updates to Exhibit D. That talks about services and giving the pool notification when you do have a large load request. We wanted to kind of realign that with some of the things we're seeing. And then the resource credits was updated. Several of our members have hydropower agreements with the Southwest Power Administration, kind of the Grand River Dam Authority, and some of that stuff. Those costs have gone up, so we made some adjustments there on those resource credits for those communities. And as you can see here, the other miscellaneous. Heather Starr, she's staff we've hired to work with Mud Muck, and then they're reimbursing us for any of her costs. We did have quite a few meetings with SOA and our contractor for the Customer Connect Center, and Chuck, I did not remove a roof, I removed a roof slope. So we did, it was funny, Chuck couldn't attend, and he told me, he said, don't try to remove a roof to save any money. Well, we removed the roof and we saved money, but it was a roof slope, and that was on the entrance to the lobby, because you got a pre-engineered metal building. Well, to have that entrance, they were going to have to build out off of that, and they were going to have a roof that, well, then the roof line from your pre-engineered metal building was going to be here, and you were going to have a roof meeting a wall. if we kept that same slope and we extended, it would basically be an extension of the pre-engineered metal building. You would have a roof seam on a wall, and it would save us money. It would be better. You know, anybody that's dealt with roofs very long knows when you have that, you're gonna have some future maintenance concerns. So they kind of brought it to us, and you know, aesthetically, I don't think it looks any worse. It is really an aesthetic concern, but when I saw the roof and the maintenance, we could say moving down the road and the upfront costs, I think it'd be a good choice for us. So, continuing to work on some other stuff. The big thing right now, and Steve, I'll try to get some information, is really working through that asbestos duct bank. Jared got a preliminary price. Doug's got that dug up where they can come actually look at it.
He was down yesterday.
Was he down yesterday? Did the price go up?
Sounded like maybe some, but he's working on it.
Yeah.
See,
His initial price, I about fell out of my chair, was $15,000. Not as significant as I thought. So, if that's the case, that would probably be the best route to move forward. But we're still investigating and making sure we're covering everything that's over there. And then, of course, Doug digs up some stuff and tells me there's a cast iron main. I don't know if Grant figured out what that was for.
The old, but we can remove that.
That can be removed, but it may not hurt to run an X-ray over that and make sure we're kept. And there's some PVC stuff, we can remove that, but we're still developing that plan. Of course, we need to have that done. We've got May, June, and we need to have it done by July before groundbreaking. So you'll see some continued information there. We're just trying to figure out the best path forward, the most economical path. But yeah, I think we can get those duct banks removed and disposed of. You know, initially, you know, when you hear asbestos, I'm thinking 6 figures. And when he called me back and said, hey, it's 15,000. I said, well, he needs to look at that. And
Get some RFQs on this guy.
we're probably going to get, it's the same one that did the power plant abatement. Jared's got some relationships with some of those abatement contractors. And they did a good job for that project. So, yeah, it's not just your average Joe. It's some qualified people. So we'll continue to work on that. Hopefully, I'm going to try to make it over there. They excavated all that. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. But that's probably our biggest challenge for that project here in the short term. And that's about all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. One of the residents over on the north side asked, will there be any kind of a permanent fence around the new energy center?
Yes. Yeah, and it will have to be moved on Grant Street and on Voorhees where those vacancies took place. It will probably be 25 on the west side. It'll be 25 foot west of the existing fence. And on the east side, it will be 10 foot east of the existing fence. So no, it'll be all new fence and everything, and that'll correspond with the street vacancies and all the property. You know, we did some street vacancies there. There was some stuff done when that was replatted. It will match that plat that was approved for the project.
Thank you.
How often do we have to access this compressor station over here?
During construction, and of course, it's going to be daily for months. You know, I don't know what that's going to look like with. It'll be once a week. You know, I know there's going to be some remote monitoring, but there's mechanical equipment there that'll have to have routine maintenance and stuff. Currently, you know, we access that. We just drive down the state right away. We've got a sewer line over there, transmission line, and those right of ways are sprayed mowed annually. We probably don't go over there 5-6 times a year right now.
No good way to get to it.
There's no good way to get to it. I'm working with MoDOT. I did speak with Steve last week. It was kind of sharing with him kind of where we were at on that. He had a couple ideas. I'm going to reach out to him and see, because curious. We've got a water easement on the property over there, but it's just for a water line. It doesn't allow ingress and egress for something that's not water related. And I really hate to go to them and request something, you know, because currently they're farming. And if we would change that to an ingress egress easement, we'd rock it, or bunch them up would rock it. They would pay that expense, but they would lose crop ground. So I think you're looking at So I thought if we could get with the state and try to resolve it there first, if we can't, then we're gonna have to go to the property owner. But I'd like to resolve that through MoDOT. They would not grant us another access, off of 65. So I propose, hey, what if we use the existing one that the landowner uses now, and then they give us a strip off the MoDOT right of way that we could use, and still trying to get that answer. So.
Anything else we're good? I guess we're ready for cash disbursement.
I'd pay them quick.
Yeah.
I noticed you didn't put any highlights of major ones, and then I looked at the total of it, well,
Yeah.
there you go.
Make a motion to approve cash disbursements.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded to approve cash disbursements. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. The next scheduled board meeting is Wednesday, May 13th. Is that okay? Motion to adjourn. Motion been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.